Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today it's time to go over another leak list, which is always fun to do and always talk about some interesting vehicles. This one was posted to Reddit, so I'll leave a link in the description to that post, and also thank you to everybody who is DMing me it. It's always nice to see the information on Discord. So when it comes to the leak list, as usual, when it comes to these things, understand that this may not happen, it may happen, who knows, but it at least gives us a great opportunity to be able to look at some interesting vehicles. This one is specifically for the export order crafting event. This is going to be the next event in War Thunder. It was recently actually announced today with the devlog of the HMS Mohawk, so we'll have to see if the leak is true or not over the next few days, with I'm sure some more devlogs. Anyway, let's get into the list. So in the list there are 4 vehicles, and this is normal for crafting events. Normally they only have around about 4, and in the list there are 2 ground, 1 aviation and 1 naval vessel. The naval vessel has already been announced in the devlog, the tribal class, the HMS Mohawk, so we'll skip over that one and focus on the other 3. The first one being the F5A. Now this is already in game, but it is in game for the Chinese tech tree, and it was actually the first F5 to come to the game, and subsequently we actually have a few others which have been added. So the F5C for the US as a premium, and also the F5E, which sits at the end of the tech tree for the Americans as well. This F5A would be rank 6 battle rating 10.3, and it would obviously be for the Americans. The only difference between obviously maybe the F5A for the Chinese and the US in game will probably be the different air-to-air missiles that it has access to, and maybe some different loadouts. But if we talk about actual real life, basically the difference between the F5A that the US used and the Chinese used was there was minor armor changes, gunfight changes, and also the refueling probe was added. Technically it should be an F5C, but either designation works for it, and basically a lot of individuals might see this as a C if if I talk about these changes, because the interesting thing about the A and the C when it comes to like US service, pretty much the aircraft when it was in the F5A, it was modified to have in-flight refueling probes on the side of the nose. It had 90 pounds of armor plates on the belly, and also jettisonable pylons underneath the wings as well. The instruments, the flight controls were modified, and the standard north sight fixed optical sight was replaced by a lead computing gun sight, and the rudder travel limiter was removed, and the aircraft were camouflaged in tan and also two-tone green with light grey on the undersides. They were redesignated the F5C for their service with the USAF. So the differences between an F5A and an F5C in US service are very similar, but the F5A, I'm guessing in game, will not have some of the features that the C also has in game. So a slightly weaker version of both the C and the E for the Americans, but should be a nice vehicle to have as a crafting event one. The next vehicle, and I think the main prize that a lot of people will be looking forward to if this leak list is correct, is a Leopard 2 prototype. This would be the KPZ prototype, the PT16 T14 mod, and this would be an incredibly fun machine to use. Basically, the Leopard 2 prototype, the PT16, that refers to the chassis that it used, and also the PT14 is the tower it used, or the turret, basically. We're going to go through the story of this thing, starting basically at the MBT program, because that's where the origins of this machine came from. So So on the 1st of August 1963, this was 2 years before the launch of the Leopard 1, the US and also the Federal Republic of Germany concluded a government agreement to cooperate on the development of a new tank. This was going to replace the M48s from 1970 and onwards. The project was named MBT KPZ-70. This was obviously the project that created the MBT-70 and the KPZ-70 that we have in the game, and after 6 years of development, however, it was clear that the project would not have a successful conclusion for several reasons. The realization led to the termination of the development work, and in Germany, the beginning of the national program began in the course of the study Kayla, which with the conceptual considerations for its own tank concept. And in 1971, the first 2 test organizers were available. You had the experiences gained from the KPZ-70. These were integrated into the project, and the first prototype left the production halls under the name of the Leopard 2K, which you obviously might know in War Thunder, in 1972. In the 3 years after this first prototype, Krauss-Maffei built further prototypes. They used 105mm guns and also 120mm smoothbore guns, with a total of 16 different chassis and also 17 different turrets. So basically, they made a ton of prototypes. And the other developments were among the other ones under the influence of the experiences of the Yom Kippur War, which was obviously had gone on, the NATO agreement on standardization of combatants, and also the comparative testing with the American prototype of the XM1. And in October of 1977, the public finally received a series-ready result, and Krauss-Maffei was commissioned as a general contractor to build the new combat armor for the Germans, or West Germany. In October of 1979, the first series models of the KPZ Leopard 2 were handed over to the German Panzer Group, and that is pretty much the story of this. Now, because of the fact that there were 16 different chassis and 17 different towers, a lot of them were tried in different ways. So the prototype Leopard 2 tower, the module T14, this was built at the same time as the Leopard 2 AV PT-19 T19 AV prototype. And while the PT-19 T19 AV was used in the US for comparative testing of the Leopard 2 AV and also the XM1, the Leopard 2 with the T14 Mod was available for testing only in Germany for itself. This was equipped with a 120mm direct channel cannon. It had a stabilized primary target devices, so basically gun stabilization, and an existing AEG fire control system, which was used. The main component of the fire control system was a completely new passive remote control principle of correlation removal. The two things on the T14 mod, which you can see, like kind of the interesting optics is basically what it was, and also notable features of the turret itself, the protection and the missing armor on the left and also the right of it. So this thing wouldn't actually be well armored at all, but it would have an autoloader in it, which is one of the things which would be very different compared to other machines. So this would be, I believe, the first auto-loaded Leopard 2, technically, that we would have in game. So it would be a lot lighter, it would have a decent engine in it, which would be pretty fun. It's, at least according to the leak, it would have no thermals, 4-second reload, DM23, rank 6, and also a battle rating of 9.7. So that could be nutty, especially since the main weakness of this thing is going to be its armor loadout, and everything else should be insane. The third vehicle is the Pansarbil M40, and this is actually really nice to see. It's an armored car made by Sweden, used by Denmark mainly, and it has a 20mm cannon on it with a decent amount of pen, and this should be a really fun little starter premium for the Swedish to get into the tech tree. This one actually has a pretty interesting story as well, just like the Leopard, or the Leopard prototype, sorry. And it starts off with obviously Sweden and Denmark involved. So you have the Pansarbil M39 and then you have the M40 Lynx, which are very similar to each other. It was initially ordered by the Danish government, the Pansarbil M39, which entered production in 1938 through Landsverk, which, are some of the guys who made most of the Swedish tanks during the Second World War. But however, when Denmark was invaded on the 9th of April 1940, Sweden cancelled the order after only 3 vehicles had been delivered, with the remaining 15 being kept by Swedish military despite repeated requests for the order to be completed. The original order referred to as the Pansarbil M39 and was designed for the Danish military in mind. As such, it was armed with a Madsen 20mm autocannon and also had 3 Madsen KSP M39 machine guns, which were 8mm machine guns in the hull and also in the turret as well. It was powered by a 140 horsepower Scania Vebis petrol engine, but when an order was placed for a further 30 vehicles, Landsverk was unable to fulfill it and ended up giving the license to Volvo in 1940, who made a new version specifically for the Swedish. This version was the M40, which I believe is the one we're actually getting. So we're not getting the Danish one, but we should be getting the Swedish one made by Volvo. And the version was, as I said, the M40. It replaced the Madsen 20mm with the 20mm Maskin Cannon, the M40S with a 28-round magazine. And due to Volvo producing this stuff, the engine was replaced by one of their design. So specifically the Volvo inline 6-cylinder water-cooled overhead engine. This gave it 135 horsepower, and it was similar in weight and appearance to the original that you've seen. So the reason why this would actually be a really good event vehicle is because you could get the Swedish one or the Danish one, depending on which one you look at, as the premium one, and then you could get a standard one in the tech tree as well for everybody else. And the only real difference between them would be slight differences in horsepower and also slight differences in guns, which would make a huge difference. So I hope this is the vehicle coming in the event. It would be really nice to see something for a minor nation along with some stuff for the majors. And as always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Professor X 1718, Orangetail, Sakoshi Tiger, BRFC 15, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe A, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, and then Carl Kin, Barine, Lafouche, and also Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.